Hello, welcome to Full Record Jacket with Phil and Ben. I'm Phil. There's the master Ben. It's okay, Ben. COVID's not quite so prevalent now. You don't need to
I
do that.
was
You're
I
okay.
was I was I was trying to hide my shock because I was about to spend some more money on some vinyl because the new
More
Matchbox
vinyl.
20 album is available for
The
pre-order.
thing is, buying all this vinyl at the rate you do, the question is, do you ever get the time to listen to it?
No, no, I don't, and I'm
So
an idiot.
the question is, what have we been listening to? That is the whole point of this particular video. So shall I throw it open, Ben, and start with you? What have you been actually listening to? It's not what you've been buying; it's what you've actually
Yeah,
put
well,
into your
obviously
ears.
on Tuesday I listened to Ryan Adams because I went to see him in concert.
Oh yeah, that
So I went
counts.
that does count, and it very good, very good is what I can say. I know he's had his troubles, and I know sort of he's had. I wasn't fully aware of the issues surrounding him in his last tour and stuff.
His brother
But
died, apparently. Is that right?
his brother died, which is when I was at the gig. I bought the album, which is named after him, which is called Chris. But apparently, he's not on a
Right.
record label, Ryan Adams, because a lot of people distanced themselves after the allegations against him of alleged controlling behaviour,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
etc. Which he has
I
apologised for, and I think people deserve a second chance. And he's a very prolific artist. We spoke about him a lot, and you know, it's
yeah. I mean, it's I'm very much art before the artist, so they have to have done something really, really bad for me to not want to listen to them ever.
yeah,
And it's particularly if they're historic, it's kind of it's what it was. And I mean, obviously these allegations against Ryan Adams are purely allegations, I believe. So we won't say anything more about him. But just on the whole subject of artists who may have done bad things, and if you're talking about sort of bad things towards women, I mean, I'm a big fan of Jerry Lee Lewis, and
yeah, well, yeah,
let's
yeah.
just say he was not an angel on the domestic front, and in
Oh,
other
John
areas
Lennon.
as well. Possibly not entirely angels, no. So, but
No,
there we
no,
go. It doesn't change what's in the grooves. It doesn't change what they put on the tape. So,
no. So yeah, so I listened to Ryan. That was very good, and I bought the album while I was there. But this week I've mainly been listening to now. Out of all the albums I've bought this week, I've only listened to one of my new ones, which I'll come to in a minute. But my first one was, and I've had this for a little while, and it got re-released recently because originally, before it got re-released, the cheapest I could find it on vinyl was £800 on Amazon, and it's the 2007 Matchbox 20 compilation Exile on Mainstream, which
oh
is
yeah,
originally it's an EP basically. It's an EP which they expanded by adding like best of tracks. I had 7 new songs on it, or 6 new songs, and then the rest of it was made up of. So it is a best of, but with an EP. So I've been listening to that because I've listened to it before. It's not like it's never been listened to, but I broke out. I actually have 2 copies of this because the online internet provider that I bought it from sent me 2 copies, and when I asked to send the other one back, they told me I could keep it. So I've got 2 copies of this. One will remain sealed. The other one's for a play-in. So I've played it. So I've listened to that. So that's one of them for this week.
okay. Is that a good way to get into Matchbox 20? That
Yeah,
compilation?
yeah, yeah. I think if you want to listen, you know, it's got the hits on it. If you want to get into, yeah, it obviously it only goes up to third album, which the title completely escapes me. It's not Mad Season, that was the second one. But the third album with Bright Lights, etc. on. Obviously, I saw them at Madison Square Garden. I've seen them here a couple of times. But yeah, then, yeah, for the earlier stuff, which is a bit more rocky, they've gone slightly more pop rock recently.
Okay.
They've got a new album coming out, which obviously I was going to buy. Not reformed. They've been on a hiatus for good few years. They get together
Okay.
and tour, but they've not released any new material since 2013's North album, which was critically panned by everybody. But I think it's quite a good album, to be fair. So,
Okay. Well,
but
we'll
yeah, if
put
you want a good access into Matchbox 20, then the best of is always a good opener.
Okay, well, when we do a program on albums that got slagged off, but you like them, you can talk about that on there. Now,
Yeah,
you've talked about, you just mentioned Madison Square Garden. That
yeah.
was a good segue into my next one, because this is a band that played Madison Square Garden in 1973. It was filmed and it ended up in a concert film. And at the time, they'd just done this album. I can't show you the front cover because YouTube's filters might pick up.
Has it got the nudie ladies on it?
It's got the children climbing up the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland. A brother and sister who didn't have any clothes on at the time. So I don't know whether we should show that, but I'll show you the inner sleeve.
Go on.
Sorry, it's not a gatefold LP. This is just out of the CD. But do you recognise this one?
Is that Zeppelin?
It's Led Zeppelin's "Houses of the Holy," designed by Hypnosis, who I think did did so many of those big rock album covers in the 70s. And I've decided that I decided to resequence the album. I decided to arrogantly resequence Led Zeppelin's work, because this is one of those albums where the running order, a lot of people think it sort of kicks off with the opening track and then it slows down too much with the Rain song.
What is the opening track again?
It's The Song Remains the Same, and then it goes into the Rain song, which is very mellow. So I radically revised the track list of this album. So I started off with The Ocean, and then I had Dancing Days, which keeps. Maybe we should do a show about it. We should do that, and then we had Over the Hills and Far Away, and then we had the Rain song, and the whole thing ended with No Quarter, and I think it's quite good. So maybe we'll do that on our resequenced. Yeah, when we talk about resequencing classic albums.
We did. Well, you did Be Here Now, didn't you?
I've done a resequence. We did an edit, a chop down of Be Here Now, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I've got a few others that might outrage some people, but I have got some classic albums that I think can be refreshed by putting the songs in a different order. But
I look forward to the goat's heads being left on your doorstep.
Goat's Head Soup might be one of the ones I do. Who knows?
Oh, really?
But, who knows?
One of the ones in my collection down here that I haven't listened to yet.
So, anything else that you have listened to?
Oh, this week, yeah, I've been listening because I'm a lover, not a lover. I am a lover, not a fighter. I do enjoy 90s hip hop. I can see past the sort of the chest pumping, sort of gun toting, wielding sort of stuff behind it. I do quite like hip hop, and I've been listening. A modern hip hop doesn't really do it for me anymore. There's nothing. And then I found that album by Lucky Tat, which we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, and that made me think, oh yeah, I really like this. It's got some deep sounds. It's sort of talking about sort of issues, and I thought, I'll have a look and see what other modern hip hop there is that isn't in the charts. So sort of not underground because. And anyway, I came across this guy, and he is possibly the least. If you wouldn't, if you passed him in the street, you wouldn't think this is a hip hop artist or a rapper or anything like that. But
a bit like me, really.
Yeah, basically. I know you're big Philly style. That's your hip hop name, isn't it? That's what you busting out some beats down at a sort of rap battle down at the local youth club. But he's from Canada. And I was actually speaking to him on the Instagram this week because obviously we've got an Instagram. I don't know if you're aware of this, Phil, but we do have an Instagram page. It's at Full Record.
Oh yeah, Instagram, that thing that I never go on and look at, but yeah,
that thing that you never go on. And this is his side. It's an artist called Jesse Dangerously. This is one of his side projects, the Library Steps, Rap Dad, Real Dad. And it's got a cool album cover. I mean, look at that cover. I've
never seen an album like it before, I have to say.
It is very good. And it is sonically, it's brilliant. The mastering on it is really good. It's got some really nice heavy beats. His rapping is exquisite. Is that a word I'm allowed to use? But he's very good. And like I said, I was chatting to him this week on the Instagram. Very nice guy. He's got some more stuff coming out. He's obviously got some solo stuff and some other side projects he's done. I think they class this as alternative hip hop, is what this genre classes as. But yeah, check him out on Instagram, see what else he does. And yeah, very, very good album. So I know you're not a massive hip hop fan, Phil, but this is.
I dig a bit of hip hop.
Yeah, this has got a nice groove to it. You can put it on, and actually, it's heavy in its in the bass.
I tend to prefer early hip hop. I tend to like old school,
But this is very good. It's actually got a bit of meaning behind it. So, fully recommend going out and buying Library Steps. Checking out Jesse Dangerously. He's on the Instagram, so you can find him on there. But very good modern hip hop album. That one gets 5 out of 5 from Taylor.
Now, when you get an album and you maybe decide you don't like it that much, and if it's an artist who's an acknowledged great artist, you might think, well, give it another chance. And I always say that, give it another chance a few years later, because you might find it clicks and you might find it's
I did
brilliant.
that with the Thrills, The Big City. I didn't really like it first time, and then second time I realised I still didn't like it, so I've never listened to it again.
This is one that I bought back in 2004 when it came out. I think I bought this. I definitely bought this in America. I can't remember whether it was in New York or Los Angeles. I think this was in Los Angeles. I bought this. And
Gloria Hunniford.
Now, well, you can see who it is.
Is that Del Boy at the front? It looks like Del Boy and that's Brian Wilson. From
all music
from
geeks
the Pet Shop Boys, from the
indeed
Beach Boys.
Brian Wilson of the Pet Shop Boys. Yeah, this is Getting In Over My Head. This is an album that came out in 2004, and it was the first time that Brian Wilson had actually collaborated with Paul McCartney. They're on a song together called A Friend Like You. And, of course, McCartney and Wilson, big sort of friendly rivals in the 60s. And born a day apart, I think. Both born in
really?
a week. It's either a week apart or a day apart. I can't remember.
I'm quite surprised the song wasn't called You Ruined My Mind by Keep Releasing Brilliant Albums.
Yes. There's also a collaboration on here with Elton John and another one with Eric Clapton. So there's a lot of legends piling in with Brian Wilson on this album. But it isn't that great. It got panned at the time, and I can kind of see why. There's some songs on here that were done with Andy Paley, the producer. There was an abandoned album with Andy Paley, and some of them were put on this, and they're perhaps the best ones on here. There's a song called Desert Drive, which is very much like a retro Beach Boys song, which is quite good, but it hasn't really clicked with me. The critics really didn't like this. I read there was one review who said at the time, let's face it, we're never going to get a great record from Brian Wilson ever again. Mind you, later that year, he put out Smile, and the critics raved and said it was the best thing ever. So,
yeah, best thing since sliced bread.
But there you go. So Brian Wilson, Getting In Over My Head. I tried to get back into it, but I didn't really, I'm afraid. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Brian. Mr. Wilson. Mr. Wilson. Next on my list, and I'm lucky because I actually have the privilege and honour of working with one of the members of this band. And they're from Coventry. And the best way to describe them, I don't know if there is a way you can describe them, to be fair. Their videos are absolutely mental. It's like, I've never taken drugs, but I can imagine that an LSD trip is is the best. But it's that in sound, I think I did describe them to Chris as they sound a bit like the Kings of Leon, the Black Keys, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club mixed in with a bit of Bill Oddie. Is the best way to describe it. And it is. And I've got a signed copy of the album. They're from Coventry, and it is The Big Sugars. And this is their debut album. I think it is called, I'll just have a look at the it is called The Big Sugars, The Big Sugars. And it's really, really good. It's not, I don't think it's on any streaming services yet. And I know you can't buy it. I think it has been released, I think. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on.
Well, if you've got a promo, you've got a signed
I've got a signed promo. And you can tell by the sort of artwork on the front. This is Chris here, who I work with, who is doing something special for our YouTube channel. We will have an intro soon. Chris, we will have it soon. and it's just a really good. It's fun, and like I said, it's got the lead singer's got these really rasping that sort of Caleb from the Kings of Leon sort of sound to him. Fuzz, it's funky. It's mental. It is mental. It's yeah. It's just check them out on YouTube. There's quite a few of the tracks on it. I think Pelican Blues, Dusty, Cutting Keys. There's quite a lot of their songs on YouTube. Check out the videos because they are mental, and they will be doing a little something for us in the not too distant future when we go up market. The little intro and an outro. So, but yeah, great album, really good album. And I know you haven't heard it, Phil, because I don't think it is available to stream or anything yet. But if you're in the Coventry area and you want to go see them, or any area, because they do go far and wide, go see them. I haven't seen them yet because I've always got my kids the weekend they're playing.
Big
so,
Sugars. I've
Big
seen
Sugars.
one. I've seen one video. It was groovy. So
It was.
I will
Do you
check
remember
it
which
out.
one it was?
It was the one in a certain town that we know, down a certain street in a certain town, and you get out of bed at the start, and then it all goes quite wacky, and it was very cool. I liked it.
Yeah, very good, very good. And they make all the videos themselves as well. I know Chris and I think it's Brendan or Az, one of the two. It could not be any one of them, but I know Chris does. They do film the videos themselves and edit
Well,
them themselves.
you've done another perfect segue, Ben, because I've been listening to an album. I'm going to show you a piece of vinyl, which I don't often do, but I've been listening to an album that came out in 1979, and this band released this album in something that had never happened before. They released a VHS version of the album, and all 12 songs had a video to go with them, even if they weren't released as a single, which was unprecedented. The album is by Blondie. It is Eat to the Beat.
You've got a thing for Debbie Harry.
I have. You see,
Debbie Harry. Debbie Harry.
I was thinking, Ben, if I should have really, if I just put that there, that would be a vast. That would be a vast improvement on having to look at me, wouldn't it?
You could put Balloon there; it'd be a vast improvement.
Well, that is true. Now, when we did our video not long ago, I'm going to keep.
I'm a horrible human being.
I'm going to stay professional. I'm going to keep talking. And we did that video not long ago where we picked our favourite albums by female artists or female-fronted groups. And I picked a Blondie album. I put Parallel Lines in there, which most people agree that Parallel Lines is the strongest Blondie album all the way through, and it was their biggest commercially as well. And I always had the view that Eat to the Beat, although it had some great sort of hits on it like Atomic and Union City Blue and Dreaming, that it was perhaps a bit inconsistent. And they tried to sort of do Parallel Lines Part 2, but it wasn't quite as good. But do you know what? I've come round to thinking, I'm not trying to make the argument that it's a better album than Parallel Lines, but I'm thinking that for me personally, I may now prefer this to Parallel Lines because the highs are so good. And it's a bit more... The thing with Blondie is they were quite wacky. They like to try different things, and they did some eccentric stuff on their albums that's quite different to their hits. And this album is a little bit more eccentric in some ways than Parallel Lines, but it is kind of groovy. And I think I actually like the production sound ever so slightly more than Parallel Lines. It's a Mike Chapman production, and I think maybe the second album he maybe slightly improved the way he recorded Blondie.
Yeah, because you sent me a Blondie video earlier of them on TFI Friday. And at that point, I remember thinking, because it was all big that Blondie made a comeback. And it was only sort of, if you think about it, only 18 years since that album came out. More time has gone since 1997, 8, when that, it's crazy, really.
It is mad because it seemed that Blondie had been away for absolutely ages, most of the 80s and most of the 90s, and it was like 99, I think, that they did that. So,
Maria, wasn't it? Was it Maria?
Right.
Was it 98, 99?
It was very late 90s anyway.
I've got the album. I bought the album that it was on.
And it is now, say, more than that time since then.
It's crazy when you think about it, that there's been more, that time when they weren't around seemed forever.
Yeah.
I'm just having a look. Maria Blondie. It came out in
It was a number
1999. It was 1999. So it must have been a very late TFI Fridays then.
It must have been, because I was going to say I didn't know how TFI Friday was still on in '99, but obviously it was. But,
I used to love TFI Friday. Especially when Sean Ryder was on it. That was always... But it started in 1996. It was all about the weekend, wasn't it? I remember that. Like, Fridays used to start and it would be... TFI Friday would get you into... To 2000 it ran till. So
I'm not saying that Eat to the Beat by Blondie is better than Parallel Lines, but I'm thinking that I might personally kind of like it more. But my key track at the moment is The Hardest Part. I just think it's a really, really great track. It's actually on your birthday playlist, your 1979.
I was listening to that the other day.
I've
probably heard it then.
It's the Blondie track on there. It's kind of funky, but it rocks, and it's just got this really great vocal by Debbie on it. It's a bizarre concept. It's a song about an armoured security van getting robbed. Don't ask me where they got that idea
I like
from,
the fact that she has a very effortless live style when she sings. It's almost like, I could do this with my eyes closed.
She's got this kind of don't care attitude, hasn't she? She's got this sort of very... it's the New York attitude. So there you go.
It is what we were talking about the other day. And my last album, which I've given you segues to yours, you've given me literally nothing.
None whatsoever. No, sorry about that.
Whatsoever. But my last time I've been listening to this week and is Elbow, Dead in the Boot, their collection of B-sides. And Elbow are one of those bands that I don't think have ever done a bad track.
Really?
They're either,
okay.
I think we've had this discussion before, where either there's no standout track, so therefore everything is on a par, or everything is just equally brilliant. It's like, even the B-sides. I wasn't too sure, but I'd read a couple of reviews of this album, and a couple of people were a little bit negative, but I don't think Guy Garvey and his band have done. I know can be a bit, his vocal can grate people at times, but every song they do is beautiful.
Okay, well, I've never heard an Elbow B-side, I must say. I've never...
I must admit, every everybody remembers Elbow for the, Day Like This and etc., Grounds for Divorce. But I don't think they've done a bad song. I don't think there is a bad Elbow song.
I might have to dive in and hear the B-sides. It's always interesting when a band does do a B-sides album. It does make you hope that they have got some decent B-sides. Certainly that was the case with Oasis. It was the case with Suede.
Yeah.
Can't think who else has done B-side albums. But
I think because nobody really buys singles anymore. People don't release hard copies, that you don't get those B-sides anymore.
No, they're not really. They're not really done, are they?
I mean, back in the day, Oasis singles, it was like getting an EP every time. And then I know the charts change, and you could only have so many tracks, couldn't you?
3 tracks or something. There was a limit of 3 because, the Oasis ones went from 4 to 3, didn't they?
Yeah. And even up until, I know in the sort of latter stages of Oasis, there was a few more remixes, etc. on. But things like Hand Me Down the Wine and what's the one? Let's All Make Believe, things like that. Shout It Out Loud, really good B-sides. And this, much like the Master Plan, could easily have been an A-side record. Like I said, I don't think Elbow have ever done a bad song. If anybody wants to correct me on that one, they can do. But every time I listen to an Elbow record, it's like, God, there's nothing to dislike on it. It took me a while to get into them. A friend of mine, he used to listen to Asleep at the Bat, the debut album. We'd get back from a night out, and he'd put that on, and we had we invented a band. It was called Bag of Sand, and we did try learning a few Elbow songs, and I was on bongos, he was on guitar, but it took me a little while to get into them. But sort of when I did, it was like, do you know what? Yeah. And Guy Garvey's solo album, Courting the Squall or something, from about 2018, very good album. So,
okay, well,
kids.
I'll have a dive into that. I'll see if I can find a Bad Elbow song. I'll rise
I
to
tell
your
you what,
challenge.
yeah, you find me a Bad Elbow song, and I'll do something horrible. I'll tell you what, you find me a Bad Elbow song, and I will listen to a whole Celine Dion album.
Oof, that was. I thought you were going to say Spin Doctors because you really have this thing against the Spin
Okay,
Doctors, but
Spin Doctors. I'll listen to
but
the Spin Doctors.
that might be kinder to you than the Celine Dion. You know,
All right, Celine Dion and the Spin Doctors.
if I can get you to agree that an elbow song is bad.
If you can find a Bad Elbow song, album or B side, if you can find one where you go, do you know what?
This
That's
is
fucking
really bad.
awful.
Okay,
This,
okay.
yeah, Celine Dion and the Spin Doctors back to back. Me.
I will do that with elbow. Now, I hate to elbow you out, Ben, but we have been going for 25 minutes on this episode. So, the viewers have stuck with us. We're very grateful to that. Thank you for watching us. Thanks for being with us for Full Record Jacket. We'll do another one very soon. But in the
And we
meantime,
may change clothes.
we might even do that. We tend to just sit here
I
all
may
day long
finish
with the
this
same
glass of
clothes
wine.
on. Yeah, but we'll get dressed just for you. Thanks for watching.
Be good.